Shabbat Shalom. Happy Sabbath. This morning we would like to look at the subject, the Ardour of Yah's house, the zeal of Yah's house. The way I want to look at this is to use a case study, and we're going to look at David, King David, and some of the things that he went through and how that fulfills into Yeshua, how Yeshua fulfills that which David was going through. And perhaps as you read it through, you will see yourself in that situation. I believe oftentimes when we read the scriptures, the Ruach is not merely speaking to a situation then, a present situation, but a subsequent situation in which we find ourselves. So the subject is for the zeal of Yah's house. And in order to define what I mean by zeal, I would like for you to join me in the book of Numbers, Numbers chapter 25, so that I may define what I mean by zeal. Numbers chapter 25 says, while Yisrael abode in Satin, in some translation it said Shittim, the people profaned themselves to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab, who invited them to the sacrifices of their idols. And the people ate of their sacrifices and worshiped their idols. I'm reading from the Septuagint, so the words might be a little bit different in yours. And the people ate of their sacrifices and worship their idols, and Israel consecrated himself to Baal Peor, whereupon the wrath of Yah was kindled against Israel. And Yah said to Moshe, take all those leaders of the people and make a public example of them, for Yah in the face of the sun, so shall the wrath of Yah be turned away from Israel. So the people here had spent a lot of time in the wilderness, as you know, and they were now at the banks of Jordan. They could actually see beyond the Jordan, the promised land. But here at Baal Peor, they joined a group of people and were warring with them. Verse 5 says, then Moshe said to the tribes of Israel, kill ye every one, him of his family, who had consecrated himself to Baal Peor. And behold, there came a man of the children of Israel, who conducted his brother to a Midianitish woman in the sight of Moshe. So they were in their camp, and they brought in a Midianitish woman into the camp in the eyes of Moses and all the people. And the word here says that it was in the sight of Moses and before all the congregation of the sons of Israel, while they were weeping at the door of the tabernacle of the testimony. They had sinned. They had joined with the people at Baal Peor and had sinned. And Moses had scolded them, and they were now at the place of repentance. They were repenting, and it was during the course of repentance that the Midianitish woman came into the camp. Understand that. And the word says here that upon seeing this, Phinehas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, started up from among the congregation and taking a javelin in his hand, went after the man, the Israelite, into the bedchamber and ran them both through. The man, the Israelite, quite through, and the woman into her belly. Whereupon the plague stopped from the children of Israel. Now they who had died of the plague were 24,000. Hear me? The word said that Phinehas saw what happened. A stranger came into the camp of Israel, and Phinehas, one of the leaders, took a javelin and thrust it through. And the writer here is leaving you no room to conjecture, because he took the one javelin and he thrust it through the man and in the woman's belly. So he doesn't want you to conjecture what it is that they were doing in the position they were in the camp of Israel. And Phinehas, with his zeal, thrust them through. Now, verse 14 says, now the name of the man, the Israelite, who was slain with the Midianitish woman was Zambri, son of Salmon, the chief of the patriarchal house of Simonites. Hear me, he was a Simonite, a descendant of Simeon. And we notice Simeon has a temper. And the name of the Midianitish woman who was slain was Chesvan, a daughter of Sur, the chief of the clan of Ophmat, which is Ed family of Medium. That's what I mean when I talk about zeal. Someone who cares much about Yah's house and who cares about the worship and the sacrifices that we give to Yah. It's very, very important that we understand that we can't behave any how we choose when we come into the house of Yah. We must be circumspect in speech and in conduct. And we see Phinehas felt the same way and decided that such people do not belong in the camp of Israel. So come with me now to the book of Psalms, Psalms 69. And this psalm is a kind of poetic response to the circumstances that David was facing. 69, and the word says, save me, O Yah, for waters have broken in on my soul. I am sunk down in the deep mire, and there is no support beneath. Whatever David is going on, whatever is going on here with David, he's letting you know he's overwhelmed. And he's using poetic term here. He's saying, I'm up to my neck. I'm drowning. I'm drowning. I'm drowning. Now, you know, as I read this, I see that Hebrew is really an impact language. And it reminds me very much of our Jamaican patois, which is very impactful in that there are certain terms, when you speak them in that language, they make more sense than when you say them in English. Now, in English, when you say you're drowned, someone would think you're dead because you're drowned. Now, when we speak in patois, And I think of a case some years ago, this, I believe, happened in Birmingham, where a lady had gone to court and she had told the judge that her husband had murdered her. But this judge did not fully understand what this woman was saying when she said, "My husband murdered me." He did not understand she was talking about the intensity of the beatings that she had been receiving from her husband. And the lawyers and the solicitors and the judge, they were flummoxed by this whole idea that she's here talking to us and she's saying she had been murdered. And so I see it here. David is saying, I'm drowned. I'm overwhelmed. And so the language here is very impacting. And so let's read on. David says, there is no support. And as we have long since known that there is no support beyond Yah. He's the only one who can take us out from the tempest of the circumstantial oceans that we find ourselves. I am come into the depth of the sea, and the tempest hath overwhelmed me. There it is overwhelmed. I am weary of crying. My throat is hoarse, and mine eyes failed while I wait on my Yah. He's praying as we pray sometimes, but nothing is happening. You're not hearing anything from Yah, and he's overwhelmed. He's crying out. Something is happening to him as things sometimes happen to us, and you pray and you fast, but there is no word from Yah. That's what is happening here. He's overwhelmed in his plight. And David wants you to know that, hey, I'm doing this, and I'm troubled, and Yah's silence is so loud. I'm overwhelmed by the whole circumstances, but he's praying. He's weary by it. And then he goes on to explain to us even more in verse 4. He says, they who hate me without cause are more than the hairs of my head. They're numerous. Are you with me? Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you find yourself having more enemies than you do friends? David is letting you know that he is in this situation. I can't number my enemies. Mine enemies who persecute me, and how did they do it? Wrongfully. Someone here or his enemies are accusing David wrongfully. They have become strong. I have made compensation on the spot for what I did not take by violence. They accuse David of stealing something here. And he's saying, I have paid for it. Even though I did not steal it, I have paid for it. Now, as I read this experience of David, I find myself in this text, in that I remember a situation that I was wrongfully accused and made recompense for, even though I did not do it. David is saying here that they've accused me wrongly, and I have taken care of it. I have paid for it, even though I did not steal it. Oh, yes. And my enemies are so numerous that I had to surrender to doing what I did not want to do. If you've been there, you know what David is here saying. Let me read it again. He says, I have made a compensation on the spot for what I did not take by violence. I didn't do it. So he's pleading innocence. Thou, O Yah, knowest my folly. Then he goes on to say, Yah, you know my foolishness. I have made mistakes. I have made decisions that I shouldn't have made, but I did not sin against my enemy. I may have sinned against you, but not them. Are you with me? I did not sin against them, but I sinned, and you know my folly, and my trespasses are not hid from thee. No, I have not hidden them. I have declared them to you in my closet. When I have come to you, I have spoken to you and tell you all that I have done. But my enemies, they're round about me. They're round about me. Oh, yes. Let not them who wait for thee, O Yah of hosts, be put to shame on my account. Did you get that? David says, the way I live my life and the way that I have conducted myself, don't let them treat you with contempt, Yah, because of me. I have made mistakes. I should not have done that which I did with Bathsheba, and I should not have killed that man Uriah. I should not have done that. I have sinned against you. And when people look at me, they will treat you with contempt because of the way that I have conducted myself. Let it not happen. David here is more concerned about his testimony of Yah in terms of how he is perceived by the people, in that he's asking himself, am I a good reflector of Yah? Will people turn to him or turn away from him? Because when they look at me, they may say, he is not a good believer. He doesn't reflect the Creator. Let it not happen, Yah. Let they not treat you with contempt because of me. And that's what David is concerned about, not merely himself. He's saying, I don't want to be a castaway. I don't want people to look at me, and when they look at me, they say he's a poor reflector of the Creator. He doesn't want that. And so he's praying. He's praying and he's pouring out, let not them be put to confusion for my sake. Are you with me? Who are seeking thee, O Yah of Israel? He said, there are people genuinely seeking you. They're looking after you. They want to be with you. But when they see me and see that I'm a poor reflector of who you are, they may just treat you with contempt and with insolence. Let not that happen. Don't let it happen. Because, verse 7, because for thy sake I have borne reproach, confusion has covered my face. To my brethren, I have become an alien and a stranger to the children of my mother. Even my own family, my children, my brothers, they don't care about me. I have become an alien and they treat me with contempt. He said, I'm alone. I'm lonely, even within my own family, because they have perceptions of me. They say, I am different from the rest, and they don't treat me like the rest. Oh, yes. He is wrestling with his plight. He says, his own brothers, to my brethren, I am become an alien and a stranger to the children of my mother. For, listen to verse 9, for my zeal for thy house has consumed me. It is because of my zeal for your house and what takes place in your house. I want it to be done right, and the righteousness and the sacrifice to you be done right. That's why they dislike me. You see, my subject is the zeal of Yahweh's house. And so David is giving us an understanding of what's happening to him, and he's letting us know the reason for it. What is it that gives content to why they're treating him the way that they're treating him? He wants us to know that. For my zeal, my loyalty to thy house hath consumed me, and on me have fallen the reproaches of them who reproach thee. When I bow down my soul with fasting, it furnished occasion for reproaching me. When I clothed myself with sackcloth, I became to them a proverb. They who sat in the gate spoke against me. Did you hear me? Notice that when we talk about the gate of the city, this is where transactions usually take place. This is where business are usually transacted. We talk about when the angels came to Sodom, and the men that were sitting in the gate. That's where the judges are. This is where decisions are made. And Lot was one of the magistrates in Sodom. So when you read of the gate, this is where business takes place. And you remember the situation when we read in the book of Job, when Ruth was to be redeemed and the elders were at the gate. And so it was at the gate that the transaction was done. This is where the business people are. And David said, the leaders, they're talking about me. Even the leaders at the gates are talking about me. You go to the temple, and you go to the church, and you watch the people, and their eyes are on you. You don't know what they are saying, but you know they're talking about you, and they reproach me, and I'm overwhelmed. Water has covered me right up to my neck. Why? Because I'm loyal to you. You chose me, and I'm a man after your own heart, and I'm appealing to you to don't let it happen. David is crying out. They accused him of stealing, and he said, I did not do it. I've been there. I know what he's talking about. And then he has to pay it up, even though he did not do it. And so we're talking about zeal. When a person has a zeal for Yah, what happens? They sat in the gate, spoke against me, and they drank wine and made meteor song. They sang about me. The rappers make song about me. The troubadour, they sing about me. They drink wine when they sit at the gate and they talk about me. So I have become a reproach. Nobody cares about me. This is King David. This is King David, a man who was chosen and was anointed even in his youth. He's now letting you know what he's going through. And they have accused him wrongly. I've been there. I've been there. Oh, yes. Verse 13, but to thee, O Yah, I, in my prayer, applied. It was time of favor, O Yah, and the multitude of thy mercy, in the truth of thy salvation, hearken to me. Save me from mire, that I may not sink down. Let me be delivered from them who hate me, and out of the depths of the water. Let not flood of water overwhelm me, nor a whirlpool swallow me up, nor a pit shut its mouth upon me. No, don't let it happen. Hear me, O Yah, for thy loving kindness is good, according to thine abundant mercy. Did you hear me? Abundant mercy. Look down upon me. Turn not away thy face from thy servant, because I am in distress. Hear me speedily. And so David would like us to know what he's going through. And we have found ourselves at times in situations like these where we feel as if there is no friend. Our friends have become our enemies, and we call them frenemies because we cannot distinguish between a friend and an enemy. And all you want is somebody at this time to understand what is going on when you are wrongly accused and you are on fire for Yah. And so join me now in the book of Numbers chapter 16. Numbers chapter 16. The word says, when Korah, sons of Isha, a son of Kehat, son of Levi, spoke back to Dathan and Abiram, the son of Eliab, and the son of An, son of Phalet, son of Reuben. Yah had chosen these people, clearly. Yah had chosen them to assist Moses in looking after the tabernacle and the implements there in the tabernacle. But they were not content with what was assigned to them as duties. They wanted something else. They wanted the priesthood. You know, sometimes Yah has given us talents, he's given us gifts, and we covet the gift of someone else more than the gift that Yah has given to us, rather than, do the very best that we can do with the gifts. So the word says in verse 1, chapter 16 of Numbers, now Korah, the sons of Isah, the son of Korath, the son of Levi, and Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Peleth, sons of Reuben, took men. And they rose up. They did what? They rose up before Moses. They don't have the zeal. Are you with me? They don't have the loyalty. They rose up against Moshe with certain of the children of Israel, 250 princes of the assembly, famous in the congregation, men of renown. You find these in churches, in assembly. Men who are well known, they're bright, they're degreed, but they're not decreed. Are you with me? These are renowned men. And sometimes they don't like the elder. They don't like the pastor. They don't like the bishop. And they rose up in this case against a man who Yah has chosen, Moshe. Yah had to remind Moses, don't you see that I speak to other prophets in dreams and vision? But Moses, I speak to him face to face. I call him up on Mount Sinai and I give him dictation. Don't you know that? But Korah didn't seem to understand that. So he influenced other people and they came against Moshe. In verse 3 tells us, and they gathered themselves together against Moshe, against Aaron, and said unto them, he take too much upon you, seeing all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and Yahweh is among them. Wherefore, then lift ye up yourself above the congregation of Yahweh. And when Moses heard, remember, Korah is Moses' relative. They're all from Levi, his own family. Would you have conceived that your own family would have done this to you? Your own brother, your own sister. And so Moses now finds himself in a similar situation as David found himself. Are you with me? We're talking about the zeal that one should have for Yahweh. And sometimes that zeal drives you away. People hate you, David says. It's as a consequence of my loyalty to Yah. Why they don't like it? Because the standards must be held high and not loosened. We must not ask people, to come down and meet the standard. We must ask them to tiptoe to meet Yah's standard. And so Moses is here now dealing with his own relative. Did you hear me? And he spake unto Korah and unto his people, saying, even tomorrow Yahweh will show who are his and who is holy. Because Korah assumed that because he is in the congregation, he's holy. Even as many people today assume that they attend church, that means they're saved. Mere attendance counts for nothing. It doesn't count. Because if you don't have the loyalty, you don't have the commitment, then it's all in vain. And that's what we're finding here. These men had come from Egypt. They had been liberated, but they have the Egyptian mentality. These men were in slavery, but now they want to lead. This is what is happening. And so he spake to Korah and says, tomorrow, we're going to ascertain, we're going to see, we're going to find out from Yah who he wants to lead. Moses already knew that Yah had called him at the burning bush. He knows that. The people knows that. Korah doesn't seem to get that. Korah wants to be a priest. That's what the word says. So Moses says in verse 6, this do, take your censers, Korah, and all his company, and put the fire therein, and put incense in them before Yahweh tomorrow. And it shall be that the man whom Yahweh thus choose, he shall be holy. He shall be Kodash. You take too much upon yourself, you sons of Levi. You were not called to lead in the way that I was called to lead, says Moshe. Yah has given you a work to do, to carry the implements, to carry the harp. And some of you are called to put the harp on your shoulder and carry it on a pole. Was that not sufficient for you to do? Verse 9, seeing it but a small thing unto you that Elohim of Israel had separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to him. You are nearer to Yah than the rest of the people. And when you're nearer to Yah, you must bring glory to him. When I ask you to pray, or when I ask you to read the scripture, you are nearer to Yah. And Yah said, he told the sons of Aaron, those who come near to me must bring glory to me. You've got to understand that. I'm talking about zeal for his house. Zeal. And so Moses is addressing this very situation that our topic today will frame. That's what he's doing. He said, what is it? Was it a small thing that Yah took you away from the rest of the congregation and made you come near him to do a work? Huh? To do service for him in the tabernacle of Yahweh and to stand before the congregation to minister unto him? Wasn't that enough? But verse 10, and he hath brought thee near to him. You didn't hear me. Let me say that again for emphasis. When you look in the scripture on a Sabbath morning and you're asked to read, you've been brought near to Yah. When you are asked to pray for the congregation, you are brought near to Yah, nearer than the person who sits in the pew. Therefore, you have a responsibility to be holy, to conduct yourself in that light. David says, I don't want when I do these things, people treat you with contempt, Yah, because of me. But I don't think contemporary believers get this. They turn up anyhow, anytime, do it anyhow, and Yah says, that's a lame offering. That's lame. So Moses says, and he hath brought thee near to him, and all thy brethren, the sons of Levi, with thee, and seek ye the priesthood also? So you want the priesthood on top of all that you've been given? And Yah did not call you for that? You know, this makes me smile with sadness. Why do I say that? Because you know that when we go back to Shemot, the book of Shemot, chapter 19, verses 5 and 6, after they had left Egypt, Yah brought them to Mount Sinai, and Yah said, if you obey me, hear me, all of you will be unto me a kingdom of priests. Yah offered them the Melchizedek order of worship. If you obey me, all of you will be priests. And thereafter, what did they do? They inveigled Aaron and they made a golden calf and they broke the covenant. So Yah gave them the Levitical priesthood, one priest. So here it is now, this man wants to be a priest. And Yah had asked him to be a priest. And they denied it. Isn't that strange? Yah said, if you obey me, every single one of you will be a priest, and I will have a kingdom of priests. They broke the covenant, and therefore he gave them one priest. And now they want to be priests without obedience. Are you with me? And that's how human beings are. And so Moses said, bring your senses. And Moses went as far as to say, if these people die a natural death, you know Yah did not speak to me. But if this earth should open up and receive them, then you know that Yah has spoken to me. And so said then, because the word said the earth opened up and took them in. And they were just perished because Moses called Korah, listen to verse 12. And Moses sent to call Dathan and the Abiram and the sons of Eliab, which said, we will not come. When you ask someone to do something for Yah, to enhance the worship service, so that we can present a better offering to Yah, and they say no, they're doing no better than Korah. We were made for this purpose, to worship the Creator. And when you say you don't have time, you can't avail yourself to do something with gratitude, with loyalty to the Creator. What is it you're saying? They said, we're not coming. We are not listening to Moses. We are going to do that which we think is right, because we are just as qualified as Moshe. Oh, yes. He has taken too much on himself. Is it a small thing that you listen to this? Because it's quite laughable, only because it is sad. Is it a small thing that thou hast brought us up out of the land that floweth with milk and honey? Did you get that? They are saying to Moses, is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of the land of what? Floweth. That's Egypt, where they were in slavery. To kill us in the wilderness, except thou make thyself altogether a prince over us. Who are you? Why didn't you leave us there in our slave master? A land full of milk and honey. Can you believe that? Sometimes people are coming from congregations and institutions and churches where they don't hear the word of Yah. And they come among you and they're behaving as if they were liberated there. Listen to verse 14. Moreover, thou hast not brought us in the land that floweth with milk and honey, or giveth inheritance of fields and vineyard. Wilt thou put over the eyes of these men? We will not come up. We're not coming. We're not listening to you. That's what they say. We're going to do our own thing. Oh, yes. And so in verse 29, Moses says, if these men die the common death of all men, or if they be visited after the visitation of all men, then Yah has not spoken to me. We're going to determine who is right and who is wrong. But if Yahweh make a new thing, and the earth open her mouth and swallow them up, with all that appertain unto them, and they go down quick into the pit, then ye shall understand that these men have provoked Yah. Sometimes people walk away from the truth. They don't like to hear the truth because the truth is piercing. It cuts to the quick. And they walk away and go somewhere else. But truth was not sent to embarrass us, even though we are embarrassed when the truth comes, but to open our eyes and to clean us up. And verse 31 says, and it came to pass, as he had made an end of speaking, all the words that the ground clave asunder that was under them, the earth removed. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their houses, and all the men that appertain unto Korah, and all their good. We got to be careful. We must be very, very careful that we don't reject that which Yah sent to us and accept that which he abhorred. Verse 33, they and all that appertained to them went down, how? Alive, into the pit, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished from among the congregation. Did you hear that? They perished from among the congregation. This is a warning to all of us. But I want you to know this, because somebody else is doing wrong. You don't have to do it. Because your grandfather or your grandmother was an owl, you can be an eagle and you can soar. You can do better. We are the generation where knowledge has increased tremendously. And I don't mean artificially. I mean tremendous spiritual education has been given to us. And I like chapter 26 and verse 11. It says, notwithstanding, the children of Korah died not. They did not die. Daddy died, but not the children of Korah. Are you with me? And so you read all of this in First Chronicles chapter 12 and verse 6. It says a group of Korites joined King David in various military exploits and won the reputation of being expert warriors. Moreover, the most remarkable thing to note is the sons of Korah is that during the time of King David, they became the great leaders in the choral and orchestral music of the tabernacle. They repented. They didn't do what their father did. They joined with David, and they were the singers, the Korites. So we don't have to do what others are doing. But sometimes it's hard when your own family is against you. So come with me to the book of Yohanan, and we will look at the second portion of that book, And we will take note of verse 13. That's John chapter 2, verse 13. And when the Passover was at hand, Yeshua went up to Jerusalem and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves and changers of money sitting. I did say earlier that I'm going to show you how it is fulfilled in Yeshua, what David was experiencing. So he goes in to the temple, and if you and I were to walk into a house of Yah, there are certain basic things we would expect to see. Is it not? Things that pertain to the worship of Yah. You would see scripture. You would see people posturing to give worship. You would see a minister. You would see perhaps a lectern. And all these things collectively, they come together to speak to a theme about worship. But he says when Yeshua here walked in, what did he see? He saw oxen, sheep, doves, and changers of money. You almost get the impression that this was the original Wall Street. Are you with me? This is a temple. You see, my subject is zeal for the house of Yah. Commitment, loyalty. Because when we come to worship him. Verse 15. And when he had made a scourge of small cords, remember we sang this morning about what? Blessed be the ties that bind, the cords that bind us. But these cords that he put together was to what? Whip them. So he put a small scourge of cords together and he drove them out of the temple and the sheep and the oxen and poured out the changers' money and overthrew the tables. I wish we had some Phineas in our churches today. I wish we had some more like Yeshua, who would drive the money changers out. The people who are making merchandise of the people's souls in the house of Yah and think nothing is wrong with it. Are you with me? And the word said, and said unto them, verse 16, that sold doves, take these things and make not my Father's house a house of merchandise. Don't do that. And the disciples remember that it was written. Listen to me. His disciples remembered what? What did they remember? The zeal for thine house hath heated me up. He take that right out of what we read in Psalm 69. The zeal of thy house. And notice, because of this zeal, they began to hate the Messiah, even as they hated David. And what do you think in these last contemporary days? You think they're going to love you more than they love the Messiah? The same thing is going to happen to you. It's going to happen to us. And we're going to find ourselves in the same plight. And the only person we're going to be able to call out to is Yahweh. It's there. Your house is left to you desolate. And so he drove them out. Then answered the Jews and said unto him, what sign showeth thou unto us, seeing that thou doest these things? Because you're doing these things, you must have some authority. Who are you? We're here selling and making our money in the church, and you come and you just drive us out and threw the tables over. Give us a sign. We want to know. Yeshua answered and said unto them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. But they didn't grasp that. Are you with me? They didn't grasp it. He's talking about his own body. He said, you're going to crucify me, and in 3 days I'm going to raise up again. You can't kill me. I lay my life down voluntarily. In fact, you who are trying to kill me, I have to die for you so you can live. Get that? They couldn't comprehend that. Word says, but he spake of the temple of his body. And so I'm going to ask you to come with me to John chapter 7. That's Yohanan chapter 7. Because we're going to see that the very same things that happened to David happened to the Messiah, because he's fulfilling the whole thing. Chapter 7. And let us look at verse 3. His brethren therefore said unto him. Well, let's start from verse 1, give it some more context. After these things, Yeshua walked in Galilee, for he would not walk in Judea because the Jews were what? Seeking to kill him. They were seeking to kill him. Now the Feast of Tabernacle was at hand. His brethren therefore said to him, depart hence and go into Judea, that they may see thy disciples and the works that thou doest. Understand what's going on here. They know that the Messiah must come at tabernacle. He is claiming to be the Messiah. So mockingly, they are saying, if you are the Messiah, then go up and show yourself. Be popular. Show the people miracles that you can do, and they will believe in you. Are you with me? When he says his brethren, his own brothers. Are you with me? He had 4 that we know of, and 2 sisters. He was the first of Miriam's children, Mary. And we read this morning, when we go back there in a few minutes, in the book of Jacob, James is one of his half-brothers. And Jude is another one of his brothers. So they are saying it's the Feast of Tabernacle. You see, I'm focusing on the fact that even in these last days, you cannot rely on blood relatives. You can't. Only Yah, who is of a different blood. The blood of Yeshua. And so they mockingly said, go up and show yourself. Verse 4, for there is no man that doeth anything in secret, while he himself seeketh to be known openly. You say you're the Messiah? Go and show yourself. Showcase yourself at the Feast of Tabernacle. He was born in Tabernacle. Are you with me? If thou doest these things, show thyself to the world. Go and make yourself popular. Make the headline. Because if you go up there at the tabernacle, where almost 3 million people are going to be in the season of tabernacle, they will know who you are. And what made things worse, he had chosen 12 men different from those in the temple to assist him, and most of his worship would take place in a house. He was always worshiping a house. So they saw him as an enigma. He was doing everything that was different from the rest. He was worshiping in a house, and he did not have the congregation of the temple. He said, go up now. They said, go up. Listen to verse 5. For until then, neither did his brethren, that's his brothers, believe in him. They did not believe in him, his own brethren. James grew up in the same house with him. Jude also grew up in the same house. But the word said that they did not believe in him. They did not believe in the Messiah. So when you come and you say, I worship in a house church, and these are the things that Yah has revealed to us, who do you think they're going to believe? Who do you think? The same things are going to happen to us. We're going to have to go through David's experience and clearly Yeshua's experience. People are not going to believe what you're saying. You tell them about the Sabbath and the feast day, and they treat you with contempt. All I ask, David says, that the contempt they have is not because I am a poor reflector of you. Don't let that happen. Because of my zeal that is eating me up, they don't like that. They don't like the principles. They don't like the standard. And so the word says that they didn't appreciate him. They didn't believe. Fancy growing up in a house with the Messiah, as James did, and day after day, he making claim that he's the Messiah. You know that you're from the same mother. You know that your father is his stepfather, and he's claiming to be the Messiah. What would you think? Well, let me show you what they think. Come with me to Matthew chapter 12. And let's turn to chapter 46. Verse 46, I should say. It says, while he yet talked to the people, behold, his mother, who? Miriam, and his brethren, his brothers, stood without. He's talking to people, right? And he's healing people. The Ruach is upon him, and he's doing works that they cannot even conceive how he does it. Because all they can think is, this is the carpenter's son. And carpenter, again, an impact language in the Greek, doesn't mean carpenter in the way that we understand carpentry, in that a man with an hammer and, spirit level and all that, and the plumb line, they mean an architect. He's the son of an architect. He's the architect of the whole universe. But we don't seem to understand that. And so they heard that people are moving in droves toward him. And he's healing people, and he's causing issues in the city. And the Jews are seeking to kill him. As a mother, can a mother love cease towards the child that she bears? Oh. And so his family come up now. What are they going to do? Let's go and get him and bring him back to Nazareth so he can practice his eccentricities over there and nobody will take notice of him. Let's bring him out. So they come. Let's read it again. Chapter 12. And verse 46. So while he yet talked to the people, behold, his mother and his brethren stood without, desiring to speak with him. Hey, with me. They're concerned about him. And the concern that he is causing all over town. Then one said unto him, behold, thy mother and thy brethren stand without, desiring to speak with thee. Your mother and your brothers are outside, and they want to have a word with you. They have come quietly to ask him to leave the place because that which he's doing, remember the word said they don't believe in him, his own brethren. But he answered and said unto them, this is verse 48, to the one who came, he spoke to him and said, who is my mother? And who are my brethren? Who are my brothers? And he stretched forth his hand towards his disciples. Are you with me? And he pointed them out, behold, my mother and my brethren, for whosoever shall do the will of my Father, which is in heaven, the same is my brother, my sister, and my mother. If you have the same zeal, the same loyalty, you stand for the same principle that Yah has sent down to us, then you are my brother, greater than blood brother. Are you with me? So when I say that we are all we have, you better believe what I'm saying. I'm saying the relationship that we have in belief that Yah has sent to us, the word of Yah, when we have that bond, blessed be that tie that binds us together. It's greater than biological friendship or biological relatives. It's greater than that. Oh, yes. So in Matthew chapter 13 and verse 55, what did they say? Is not this the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Miriam? And are not the brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judah? Those are his half-brothers. Then they scoffed. They did what? They scoffed. He is just the carpenter's son. And we know Miriam, we know Mary, his mother and his brothers, Jacob, Joseph, Simon, and Judah, and yet he claims to be the Messiah. But he says, my zeal for my Father's house is such that I cannot allow you to do this. So we see what zeal looked like. Let's look at what zeal doesn't look like. Because, if we go to 1 Samuel chapter 2, and if we read in that passage from verse 12, we see that the ark was given as a custodian. Israel became the custodian of the ark. But the word says now the sons of Eli, they were corrupt. They were what? Corrupt. They did not know Yah. They did not what? Know Yah. And the priest's custom with the people was that when the men offered a sacrifice, the priest servant would come with 3-pronged flesh hook of the end while the meat was boiling. Then he would thrust it in the pan or kettle of the cauldron or pot, and the priest would take for himself all the flesh hook brought up. So they did in Shiloh to all the Israelites who came. The priests were corrupt. And as you know, the ark was taken and the sons died. Hophni and Phinehas, they died. And one of them, wives, gave birth, and the child was called Ichabod. The glory is departed. And if we should speak also of Jeroboam or Jeroboam, we could look at that in 1 Kings, couldn't we? Chapter 12, in verse 32. And the word says, and Jeroboam ordained a feast on the 15th day of the 8th month, like the feast that was in Judah, and he offered sacrifices on the altar. He made his offering in Bethel to sacrifice to the calves he had set up, and he installed priests in Bethel for the high places he had set up. Did you get me? This same priest here that Jeroboam established, Yah said, this is the Feast of Tabernacle. It shall be held in the what? The 15th day of the 7th month. But Jeroboam said, no, we will have it on the 8th month. Yah says, remember the 7th day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou worship Huh? Is that what he said? 6 days shall thou work. And on the seventh day, must you do? You come in a congregational form. Let the churches congregate. Each is a church. Let the people congregate and come and worship me. Rest from your weariness of the week. But Christendom says, no, we will change the day like Jeroboam. We will change it from the seventh day and we will make it the first day. And so many today, they're just demonstrating to you what disloyalty looks like. They don't have the zeal. It's not there. They do not have the zeal. And so we must look also of Jacob. You remember him? He lived in Shechem. And you read that story in chapter 34 of Genesis. And he's there for a while, mixing and hobnobbing with the people there. But they were secular beings. They did not have any loyalty to Yah. And then Dinah, his daughter, she was plucked like an unripe fruit from the tree of innocence by one of the young men, the prince of Shechem. And she was spoiled. How many young people have been spoiled that way? And no account given. Even the church doesn't seem to care about their innocence, to protect them and to counsel them in this way. We just leave them on the broad way when we should drive them into that narrow path of righteousness. Until now, he is living in Shechem and he has been made stink. So he says out of his own mouth, because of what his son did, how they responded to the situation, he said, you have made me stink. And sometimes we walk into churches and indeed we can smell the stench of immorality. But we sit there, and when we come out, the whiff is such that we become overwhelmed, even as David. So by that time now, Yah said, you see what has happened? You have stayed in that place too long. Leave Shechem and go to Bethel. Leave it. And what did he have to do? He had to get rid of all the gods, the earrings and everything that they had in the false god, so that he could go back to Bethel, where he first met with Yahweh. Isn't that right? And so we find ourselves in a situation where, like David, like Yeshua, because Yeshua walked into the temple a second time. He walked into it the first time and he saw money changers. He walked in again on the way to his crucifixion. And when he looked in, there was no improvement. He said, now, in the first time he said, my Father's house. But this time he said, your house. It's no longer my Father's house, because once the Holy Spirit moves, once the Ruach leaves the place, it's no longer Yah's house. He said, your house is now left to you what? Desolate. And that's what we read in Revelation 18 in verse 23. So join me now as we bring this thing to its logical end. Matthew chapter 21. Matthew chapter 21. And we will dilate a little on verse 18. Now in the morning, as he returned into the city, he was hungry. Yeshua, that is. He's coming into the city and he's hungry. And when he saw a fig tree, are you with me? In the way, he came to it and found nothing thereon but leaves only, and said to it, let no fruit grow on thee henceforth forever, and present the fig tree withered away. And presently the fig tree withered away. Remember, the fig tree represents Israel, symbolically. And Israel are the believers, as you and I. He's hungry. He's hungry for loyalty. He's hungry for us to show our love. He's hungry for us to understand his word. He's hungry for us to be eager to bring sacrifices to him. He's hungry. But when he walked into the temple, into the churches, into the denomination, he sees no fruit, but he sees leaves, foliage. And you're wondering why you're cursed. He says, what? Cursed is that fig tree. Cursed is that church. You have been in the community for X number of years and you have not taught anything. The people have not improved spiritually. Yes, you have grown numerically, but you have not grown spiritually. Curse. All you have are leaves. And I don't want fig leaf religion. True religion and undefiled is to remember the fatherless, the widows, and those in need. That's true religion. That's true faith. And so, don't be that fig tree. It wasn't even the season for figs. But the fig tree, like a model, was behaving as if it had fruit. That's what many believers do. Because they attend the assembly on the Shabbat or on Sunday, and they bring their Bible and they speak like pilgrims, and they look like pilgrims. They give the impression that they're saved. But Yah said, no, the fig tree has no fruit. By their fruit, you know that. And so join me now in the book of Yaakov, James. So we get to understand that we've read earlier in John chapter 7, Yohanan chapter 7, that his brother at that time did not believe in him. But the word says later on, he appeared personally to James, even as he appeared unto the disciples and to other people, even on the way to Emmaus. He appeared to them. And so James, who did not believe in his brother after his resurrection, is now believing, not only believing, but he has become one of the central persons in the first century church. If you read Acts chapter 15, you will see James there was the chairman of that group. Let's read chapter 1 of James. He says, James, a servant of Yahweh. Notice something. We live in the Western society, and when we write letters, it doesn't matter how long the letter is, we put our names at the bottom of the letter, 5-6 pages long. And so whoever is reading the letter has to go to the end of the page and find out who it is that writes the letter. In biblical time, they put the name at the top because it's sealed. And you just have to open the little seal and you saw the name. That's what James is doing. He's writing a letter here. And who is James writing to? James is writing, well, let's read what James is writing. James, Yaakov, a servant of Yahweh, This is a man who did not believe. What does he say now? He doesn't even say it's my brother. Does he say that? No, he says, I'm a servant of him who I did not believe in. Did you get that? That's a change. That's what I call conversion. In John 7, he said that his brethren did not believe in it, but because he appeared to them, and the truth now, because they realized everything that he said before his crucifixion, realized came to pass. They said, yeah, James said, I got to believe. I must believe. So James is writing, a servant of Yahweh and of the servant, the Savior, Yeshua. James said he's not my brother, he's my Savior. The Messiah, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings. James is like me and you. I left many people in the gambling houses and the bookie shop. The diaspora, that's what dispersion means. Those in the diaspora, they're scattered. People who have not yet given their lives, some have. But we have people out here, family and friends in the diaspora. Shall we not write to them? The 12 tribes? So if James is writing to 12 tribes, how do we say it was only 10 tribes that scattered? He said, where did he say they were? They're scattered abroad. And he's writing to them. And this morning, you know, those people that I once played kaluki with and plucked jack and poker, I feel compelled to send a literary note to them saying, my brethren, count it all joy. Count it what? Joy when you fall into various temptations. Some of you have spent time in prison and you were innocent. You were tracked by a system that had no interest in your outlook. You've tried the court system. You've tried lawyers. You've tried even doctors. And they have failed. But there is one. His name is Yeshua. He's all in one. He's a doctor. He's a lawyer because the word says there is one mediator between man and Yah. He's an advocate. The word says. And the Father judgeth no man, says John 5:22, because the Son judgeth all. He is the judge of all the earth. So James wants us to know that for those of us who believe, if we have faith, it must have demonstrable work supporting it. Because faith without work is what? It's dead. Years you've been coming to church, and when people ask you something, you don't know. You have not shown any interest to develop your intellect in the word of Yah. Oh, yes, you have a degree. You can give that to Caesar. But what is the offering you bring on a Shabbat to give to Yah? Those who come near him, those who take part in the reading of the Torah, those who are knelt on their knees and they pray to Yah, what is it you giving him? What is it? And so when you hold it like that and you say to a people, this is the offering, they say, we can't bother with that. When you say to them, you better cover yourself when you pray to Yah and when you prophesy, they said, our hair is our covering. That's what they say. They just want a religion that doesn't cut across their lifestyle, one that is convenient. And when they come to the assembly, they think it's too long. The same people will spend 2-3 hours in the gymnasium. They will go to the movie and they will watch a movie for 2 hours. They will go to the ball game and they will be there almost all day. And it's not too long, but the word of Yah, for them, it's too long. They have no zeal, no ardor for the house of Yah. And so when Yah sees that, he says, your house, it's not his, your is left to you desolate. My brethren, some may not even consider you worthy to listen to. But when you think of that, you're in the company of David. You're in the company of Moses. You're in the company of Yeshua. All of them had to go through that. So who dare you get upset and get frustrated and think you're not reaching it? Maybe in something you said some while ago, someone like James will say, and start believing. Let's finish on Acts chapter 15. Acts chapter 15, and the word says, and certain men which came down from Judea taught the brethren and said, except ye be circumcised after the manner of Moshe, you cannot be saved. What's happening here, we won't go through all of it, is that there were certain men teaching circumcision, and they come to Jerusalem, and this was the Council of Jerusalem, was being chaired by James. James is the same half-brother of Yeshua who didn't believe in him, but he's now a central figure here. And what was at stake here is that there was potential for the church to split. Have one church for the Gentile and one for the Jew. That was the essence here. And so they addressed the matter, and Peter said, no, this is not so, because through Cornelius, Yah had shown me that the Gentile will receive the Ruach even as the Jew, and we must keep the church together. Are you with me? Don't go around saying you're a Baptist or you're a Pentecostal or you're a Seventh-day Adventist or you're a Catholic. We don't want to divide each other. We want one church. And the circumcision that we must advise you on is the circumcision of the heart, not on the foreskin. Keep the church together. And keep the Sabbath. And don't eat food that are offered to idols. Are you with me? Don't do that. Don't do that. And the word says that James, that same man, what did James say? Let's read verse 13. And after they had held their peace, James, this is the same brother, Jacob answered, saying, men and brethren, hearken unto me. Simon Peter hath declared how Yahweh first proposed to take out from among the nations, from among the Gentiles, the people of his name. He took them out. He took the Gentiles out who call upon his name. And to this agree the words of the prophet, as it is written, in that day I will raise up a tabernacle of who? Of David, that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruin, and I will build as in the days of old all what? Nations called on my name. Be one church, one nation, no Jew and no Gentile, no male and no female, one assembly. We find that in Hebrews 12:23. Did you hear me? For known unto Yahweh are all his works from the beginning of ages. Wherefore, my sentence is that we trouble not them which from among the Gentiles are turned to Yahweh. Did you hear me? They turn to Yahweh. They become Israelite by way of adoption. They have come in because he only has one flock. And so it was James, who did not believe in him at that time, who chaired this meeting and said, let's keep the church, let's keep the assembly as one. In Yeshua's name, may we understand these things, and may we strive earnestly to be obedient to him, so we may have that zeal that David had, that Yeshua had, that Moses had. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen.